Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to the Just Jax Podcast. Hi, I'm Jax, and you are catching us on the last episode in our Adopt a Not series. This is not heard, and this has been really a tough one for me, for I'm still in the throes of figuring out what my problem is and why. I have this not so prevalent in my life. And just so in case you're new here, I really focus on the word not in how I am trying to eradicate it from my entire existence. It has been the bane and the cause of all of my problems. For if you take any word that you want, you can have attractive, intelligent, happy, joyful, skinny. And you put the word not in front of it, and you have despair, shame, anger, fear, everything. Because safe, if you put not in front of safe, and you become not safe, and that is a totally different situation. So I have really figured out that not is one of the most powerful 3-letter words currently that we use in our language. And I call it an adopt a not because if I am being not heard, it's because I have taken on someone else's idea of what my identity should be, and I've adopted that. Because otherwise, if I had my own true identity and realization of who I am and what I'm capable of, I would be feeling very different and being able to voice what I need in order to be heard. So, this is the last one in the not series, and this is not heard. I'm gonna come clean here. If there was a membership club for man haters, I would be a really high. As much as my dad is a 3-star general in the loser army, I would be pretty well up there in the man hating ranks as well. I would even say could be a platinum level, for I really had no use for them. And in high school, I figured out how to cut them at the knees and make them feel small. For you see, my dad taught me really well on how to do that to my mom. And so I figured it would be fair play, and I was going to do it to men. The problem with that mindset is that I never empowered myself how to be a powerful woman. I just knew how to attack men if need be. You would think, because I have been married 4 times. Well, have been. I'm You would think I would be some kind of expert on men, considering this is my 4th marriage I'm in now. I currently have been married for 11 years, and I moved to a completely different country to have this relationship. I've basically done every kind of relationship that you can imagine. And had almost every kind of wedding that you can imagine. And I am so good at leaving men that it really should be on my resume as a marketable skill. That being said, my way. That being said, have I been able to learn how to be better heard by the men in my life? And the answer to that is no. I got a small glimpse of what that felt like in my 3rd marriage, and I really enjoyed that. But the side of myself came out where I would say that I got heard the most in my 3rd marriage. And now looking back, I realized that it's sad when you realize that later, that that was the relationship that I got heard the most in. But one of the things I really, really had to come to understand is my portion of what's happening. Now, again, remind you, platinum level membership of the Man Haters Club. So, for it has been a long known understanding of mine that the man had to do everything, and I basically was perfect. It wasn't until, what was it, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, that I went to a weekend retreat. And this weekend retreat was a philosophy on how to build long lasting relationships. And in walked this old guy, and he set off my radar right away in regards to being who he was. But luckily for him, he was introduced to me by women first, and I could see the type of caliber of women that were in his program, and they were strong-minded, independent women that just knew how to navigate relationships really well. And I thought, okay, I could do that. But when we got into the workshop, one of the things that was very clear to him and in his philosophy is that if a relationship fails, it's the woman's fault. Now, talk about all the cells in my body going, fuck you, man. Like, but I was on my fourth marriage now, and I had the same problem all four times. So either I was picking the same kind of men and it was all up to me, or I had really great men and I created them to be this way simply by the way I treated them. And either way, I was the common denominator in the situation, because either I chose those men as they are, or I created them by who I was as a person, because they are going to be products of the environment of what I create. Either one of them, when I was sitting through the weekend and finding out that I was actually the common denominator and that it had a lot more to do with myself, it really shook me to the core, because what it made me realize is that I was becoming more of the man in my relationship. And that's what really struck me, is that my husband was treating me like a man, someone he had to protect himself from, instead of a woman that he was to protect. And that was very hard for me to swallow, because this personality who I have and this so-called confidence in which I carried was from becoming a man hater and being able to just be able to stand tall in a man's world. And that shook me to the core. I was so badly shaken that I just sat there. But at the same time, this is also karmic for me, because I never taught my boys how to be good listeners for women either. I just had my son go on a trip with this girl, and they've been friends for a long time, and they've never um, bit the bullet and became more. They just went to Vegas and like hit 21 casinos in a weekend. And then they went to New York and did a power thing with, they did an NFL game, and they also did a baseball game. See the Yankees play. And they powered through. And there was a situation that came up, and his response to her, regardless of what happened, was, no, we're going now because I don't want to listen to you fucking whine for the next 6 hours, was his response to her. And I'm like, holy shit. So she may have pushed him to that certain level, but oh my God, I never taught my boys how to be good men to their women. And I missed the boat there. I told them they had to be good providers, and my son is a good provider. But I never taught them how to provide a safe emotional space for their women. But I failed them as a mother, teaching them how to be men that could be comfortable in the presence of a strong woman without feeling that they have to protect themselves from it, and instead provide an environment that allows that woman to be as grand and shine as bright as she wants, and be able to provide a safe environment for that. Because once a man provides a safe environment for a woman emotionally and physically, she will jump his bones and do whatever and be the queen that she wants to be. And he will get all of the male stroking that they need, because that's what they need from us women. If you remember how you wooed your man, you told him that he was the best thing ever. Now, whatever it was in the areas that you told, you did your own line of bullshit. And now what you're doing is you're withholding, because what he did is that he picked up on the small things. I heard a podcast the other day, which was fantastic, and I can't remember the woman. All I remember about her is that when she talked with her about men, she had this secret giggle on how fantastic they are. And that's a very interesting thing to see because very few women have that version of men. A feminist movement is all about making men smaller instead of empowering women to be strong enough to be the queen beside the king, instead of being the queen with a king that's useless and spineless and stupid and makes bad mistakes and is angry and all that kind of stuff. Because a real good king, that what they say, behind every good man is a phenomenal woman. And if you want to have men that are good, we also have to be phenomenal women. And how did we win the men over? And how do women win your husbands away? By telling them that they are everything that you tell them they're not, because you cut them down. I was in a fog for the remainder of the weekend and I could hardly sleep. I could hardly interact with the girls. I was really, really shaken because there was no fucking way that this was my fault. And I could have easily gone, well, you know what? I didn't have a good male example because my dad was a loser. That is true. But I'm beginning to understand now is that when you grow up, honestly, mentally, growing up means that you take control of this bullshit stuff that you believe about yourself. And just because your parents gave it to you, you know what? If you have a really bad a car that's a lemon, or if you have shoes that don't fit, or you have a serviceman that does a shitty job, you're definitely going to give that stuff back. So, why, if you have information from an imperfect human being, someone that has absolutely zero perfection in the skill of parenting? They may have had some great things, but if they taught this about you, or where you picked this up from another adult or something like that, you picked up some bullshit and you need to give that back, because it is clear that if this stuff makes you miserable, it is again, that is where it comes in. It is adopted. So I had the belief that men were going to read my mind, and that I also created a situation where I found men in my life that reinforced that to me, that I had no voice, because I got the experience from my mom that women have no voice. So that's what I did. I found men that as soon as I voiced what I needed, it became more paramount about what they needed, and I needed to become the super independent woman and save the day and take care of everyone else. And that is one of the things that I am getting very tired of, is being the super independent woman. But there is a drawback to doing that, because if you're a super independent woman, then you can take care of your own fucking self, and there becomes a balance on how you want to be taken care of and what exactly that looks like. That brings it to the point I've learned from the weekend that really shook me, and this was the biggest one, was about protection. Is that the masculine energy basically has two simple functions. Now, something very simple can be can be far from easy, but their simple functions are to provide and to protect. The one that really struck me the most on the weekend was the word protect, because it's black or white, on or off. They either protect themselves from you, or they protect you from the world. They can't do both. They either have their back to you because it's safe and their front to the world to protect you, or the back to the world because whatever that is nowhere near as scary as protecting themselves from you. And it's very interesting because this may seem like a really strange concept, because men are supposed to be bigger and badder, etc. But there is nothing that can control a man and make him do anything than a woman. But a woman needs to know how to be able to get the man to do what they want. Now, if you want a lesson on how to manipulate men and do that, this is the wrong podcast, because I am in the process of understanding of how to uplift and build men. Because what's happening right now in our society may feel like payback, because it's been belittling and shaming and making men feel small. If you think I'm wrong, just take a real quick look at all of the men that are in our current advertisements. The men, if they're the police, they're stupid. If they're the dad, they're stupid. The women are the ones that are being the strongest. it basically is showing that our male society have no brain and that they need help from women. Yes, it is true that they need help from women, but what they need is that it's the yin and the yang. As strong as the man is as a man, the woman needs to be just as strong. And I think that, and this is going to be very hard for some of you to hear, I am no longer interested in being a feminist. I want to be, because to me, a feminist is basically a man with tits. All you're doing is being just like a man and trying, and I use the word try very specifically because it implies failure, because we will never be men no matter how much masculine energy we have or testosterone. We are going to be women. And what we're doing is all we're trying to do is to hone our skills on the tools they have instead of honing our skills on the tools we have. And that came to me in a real understanding about a year or so ago when I was working in an outside clinic. I was a lead receptionist in which that I had quite a few women that worked underneath me and my team. And I really took it seriously on how to be the best example. Now, if you wanted to be example of someone to be quiet, demure, and highly organized, then I was the wrong person to be leading you. But if you wanted someone to lead you on how to be yourself and to create a safe place and to how to disarm negative situations, then I was the girl for you. And in comes a negative situation. I was at this clinic and there was a doctor there who was my age, and he is athletic, he is attractive, and he is a big fish in a small pond. In the small little town and area of the world that we lived in, he is quite the catch. But unfortunately, he is arrogant in the way he sees himself, and he can be very belittling to all of his staff. There came a day when it was my turn to receive his attention. He was very condescending in front of a patient and my staff members, and it really hit a chord. And this was on a Thursday, and I ruminated all weekend. My brain put every kind of scenario on what to say to the bastard to just cut him at the knees like he cut me. And I just went over and over and over again. Friday night, no result. Saturday night, no result. Sunday night, no result. And I am just beside myself. And then finally, it's a 45-minute drive to the clinic. Finally, it dawned on me that once you enter into that type of arena where you are entering the game and playing the game that he has played, and that is a wordsmith and someone that likes to insult. Once you enter in that arena, you have two you have two positions that you're going to be playing. One is going to be offense, and that's going to be fantastic unless you really understand the defense. And if this is something that he's exceptionally good at, you have now entered into an arena where he can actually destroy you, much like those little gladiator situations where they had a small, skinny little fighter going against the grand champion. And that was exactly what I think he was wanting to do, because once you entered into his arena, then there was a you shot first type of mentality, and he could go after you. And I recognize that when you enter into the arena of men in regards to that type of situation, I you have to be careful because you are entering into the game, and they basically again have two simple premises. They either shoot to kill or divide and conquer. And so it's like, and sometimes they need to shoot to kill to conquer, but it's one or the other. And so I in no way wanted to instigate the shoot to kill because he already hit me pretty good with his first shot. And nor did I want him to actually think he had to conquer me mentally either. And that again was two very masculine energies. And I figured, no, I just wanted to be an empowering female because I have the power. And that was one of the little nuggets that I'm going to place right here for you that I learned a very valuable lesson, another one from a book called The Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong. And it turned my life around because it made me realize that what's happening with the men is that because they have that protection valve of either their back to you or away from you, protect them against you, or to protect them against the world for you, is that depending on how much power you have, now listen up, ladies, this is going to be a mind fuck for you. Depending how much power they sense in you will bring on the amount of defense they will present to you. So if you are a fucking powerful goddess from hell, and just because you have a problem recognizing that within yourself, if there is a masculine energy that comes across something that powerful and that strong, they know that they have to provide a strong defense against a power like that. And you will see them either one, attack, or two, objectify to make you just a woman, just this, just that, or whatever, because they need to make you smaller to counteract the power. The bigger the defense, the bigger the power they sensed in you. And this power is something that they have had a terrible experience around, and that power has made them feel unsafe. So, if you happen to be carrying that level of power or greater, even though you yourself feel like you're a worthless thing with zero power, they are going to continuously act in a certain way to keep you small so that you never recognize that power, because the truth is that once you recognize that power, you have complete control. Because if you also look in all of the television situations or media or anything like that, is that if you want to get a man under control, they just have to be underneath the spell of their romantic partner. And then all of a sudden, they will go to the ends of the earth to provide and protect for that partner. What it made me realize, the biggest thing, is that I made an environment for my husband to believe that he had to protect himself from me. Now, this is a real chicken and egg situation here, because was it like that in the beginning? Did I all of a sudden make it so that he had to walk on eggshells around me? Because he told me that in one of our discussions not too long ago, that that's how he feels. And I'm like, really? Am I that much of a bitch to be around? Is it just that I have my message is still sound, but instead of my delivery sucking, I've worked on my delivery, so I feel that it's better, but the energy is still the same? Am I still being the man hater where he has to feel he has to defend himself around me all the time? And that's where I've really had a hard time with this not being heard, because I want it to be all his fault. I want it to be that, you know what, I tell him what I want, and I no longer have to defend my position or care about his feelings during the conversation, or any of the narcissistic behavior that is happening. But I really have to make sure that my portion of it is handled first. And if it still continues happening, then I realized that the biggest mistake that I made was not having, there's my word, not, the biggest mistake I had was making my list too small and then settling for everything else in fear that I would never get what I wanted on my list. Because there is such a stigma against being picky in what you want in a relationship. Now, my criteria now looking for a relationship, although I'm in one right now, is kind of counterintuitive to speak, that I want for my relationship from right now, is that it allows me to be the best that I can be, and that it provides an environment where I can shine and grow. And I have never asked for that in my relationship. And in regards to being heard, I want to have a conversation with someone that has similar interests on becoming the best person that they can be. And to me, those now are some of the criterias that I would want on my list. Sure, it's great that they're attractive, but I'm coming up into the age group where there will be no more dark-haired men unless it's a wig or they're coloring their hair to make it dark. So I really need to revamp my list. But in order to be heard, I really have to understand what I want and how I want to be treated and what I want a relationship to look like. Because I'm going to be in a relationship with an imperfect human being who is going to disappoint me. Because that is the fact. Because you know why? Because there's only one of me on the planet, and there's only one person that knows exactly what I want. And if I'm having a hard time figuring that out, then how is he supposed to do that? But I want someone who's curious to find out what I like and is willing to ask questions. I think that would be interesting. Someone that it finds me like a puzzle that would be fun to figure out. But then I also have to be someone that wants to figure out someone else's too, because I realize too, like, do I want to be this person for my current husband? Because I'm struggling being romantic. It was our anniversary a month ago, and did I do anything? I didn't even buy a card. I did nothing. Nothing to celebrate that we are in a relationship. Is it all up to him to generate all the romance? And honestly, in the beginning of our relationship, he told me point blank that he was no longer interested in doing anything romance. He thought it was all our marriage, our wedding was just supposed to be something with a piece of paper, and he was very clear at the beginning, but because of my lack of self esteem and my lack of self worth and believing that there could be a guy out there that would be more than just like someone that likes me, because that was just my criteria that I wanted someone to just like me. Because there was very little criteria that I had for them other than the fact that they liked me. And so I just took basically whatever just came along instead of having them meet some type of criteria so that I knew that I could be happier in the long run. But I kept jumping from relationship to never find out what I truly, truly wanted. And now here in my do you call them twilight years? Here in my twilight years, I'm now having to decide what I want in my life. And it's a little complicated when you're in a relationship already. It's very complicated. And is it fair to him? Ah, anyway. So finally, Monday morning came around, and I was beside myself because I was still ruminating on what to do. And I knew that I needed to be able to have some kind of something. I just knew I needed to represent. I just was so ashamed of myself that I just fell silent and I just allowed him to continue treating people that way. And finally, when it was like 5 miles away from my destination, this thought came to me where I could sincerely apologize to him, and I wanted to apologize to him for giving him the wrong impression that he could talk to me in such a manner. But it came to me as that I am sorry I gave you the impression that you could talk to me like that in front of the patients. That is never to happen again. And that was all. And I went, oh, I breathed that in. And oh, that felt so good. I thought, okay, okay. So I walked into the clinic and I was waiting for him. And it was weird because the entire day he never came around me. I'm like, come on, I'm finally prepared. I'm the type of person that who is prepared. I'm like, you know what? And I just rehearsed it. I'm really sorry that I gave you the impression that you could talk to me in front of patients like that. Uh, Please never do that again. Or anything like that. And I just kept putting it in my head. And you know what? A day went by, a week went by, a month went by. I went back to the clinic a couple times, and the man stayed away from me, even though I never said a fucking thing. But clearly, the pebble in the pond made such a ripple that there was this woman that was even more quiet as a mouse than I was. She was basically what I was like on the inside. I had made this big tough guy man hater persona on the outside of this confident situation, but on the inside I was more like her. And so she had finally had it with his arrogant behavior and decided to file an anonymous complaint. But one of the things that she forgot to do was tell everybody else that she filed that complaint so that they could make it that it was everybody was anonymous. So our manager just happened to be there that day and decided to corner the doctor and say, listen, you've had a complaint on your behavior. And he took everyone right then and there into the lobby and said, so I understand there's been a complaint against me on the way I'm treating my staff, and I'd like to know who filed the complaint. Well, no one could say anything or do anything because she never told anyone. So she felt like everyone threw her under the bus, but she realized that it's kind of hard for them to stand as a team if they don't know who did it. So she stood up and said, yes, I would just really would like you to stop treating me as such and being condescending in front of patients, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he walked away from there and he made a change. But the most miraculous change was her, because she became the lead that she always needed to be. She got this backbone from the front. She rearranged the office to position her desk in a place of leadership. And it was just fantastic to see what happened. So even though I didn't get the victory mail to him, I still did get the win because I empowered another woman to make the stand. She was able to be heard. Now, would I still want to be heard? Yes. Yes. It's working out for me. And I'm a type of person who is being heard because there's different situations in my life where that is being exercised. My relationship with my husband right now, it is improving. And as I am learning more about myself, the more it is improving with him. And so when I come to the end of this episode, the real issue about not being heard is the fact that, are you listening to yourself? Who truly is the one that is not heard? Because if you're talking from a position of an adopted not, something you think you need, it is a very good possibility that you may never be getting it because it isn't truly what you need. It's what someone's told you that you needed, and it's really, there is zero fulfillment. So for me to recognize that the reason I have had a problem with being heard my entire life is because I never listened to myself first. And that is where the rubber meets the road. Who are you? Now I have that song. Who are you? Who? And that is the biggest part because no one can fulfill a need if you have no idea what that need is. So we've come to the end of this episode, and I want to thank you for having me feel heard. I just had actually a listener contact me and told me that she absolutely loves my podcast and she kind of misses sitting beside me at work. She also told me that I lost my Canadian accent. Imagine that. Well, you could also leave a fantastic 5-star review. You can put it on Facebook or Instagram, or you can send it to me by email at justjaxpodcast@gmail.com, or you can contact me on #HeyJax on Reddit. It is back to school season, my friends, and cursive writing is the key to helping your kids advance in their school year this season. As it happens, I have a kick-ass cursive writing curriculum called Crack the Cursive Code, and it is specifically designed to take your cursive lesson and amplify it so that it reduces your practice to one sentence only. So if you're struggling with having your kids do cursive and maintain their cursive skill, then my ultimate cursive writing adventure, Crack the Cursive Code, is exactly what you need. There is also a reading component as well as a all ages puzzle book that is completely in cursive. These books are all available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble online. If you would like a deal on the entire Ultimate Cursive Writing Adventure, then go to crackthecursivecode.com, where you'll get a bit of a bundle deal, as well as you'll be able to pick up any PDF version or the audiobook that comes with this program. You can also get my Loser, Forthwith, and Shift merchandise there as well. Thank you for taking your time and sharing it with me. I deeply appreciate you. Jax out.